Good day to everyone. I am Christina Amazar, and today I will be tackling about the schools of thought in second language acquisition. But before we proceed, let's identify first what is the second language acquisition. So, it refers to the process which people learns a second language other than their native language. So, moving on to the structural linguistic, it refers to the theory that views language as a system of interrelated components, focusing to the elements of language than its individual meanings. So Ferdinand Saussure argued that language is a structured system of signs, which has two parts, the signifier and the signified. So when we say signifier, it refers to the sound or written form of a word, while the signified refers to the meaning of the word. So the influence of structural linguistics to the second language acquisition is quite evident. And as per the language learning, it is believed that by mastering the structural components of language and repeating the sentence patterns and language structures, the learner will be able to learn the second language. Moving on to the behavioral psychology in language acquisition, it refers to how the behavior is being learned or maintained by giving two types of reinforcement. The first that we have is a positive reinforcement, and it refers to giving rewards or compliments, while the negative reinforcement refers to removing the unpleasant stimulus after a behavior to encourage the behavior. An example of it is the learner is allowed to stop doing additional chores once their homework is done. So behaviorism influences second language acquisition by the help of behaviorism methods such as memorizing, drills, and repetition, helping them to be much more familiar with the language. Next is the generative linguistics and cognitive psychology. In generative linguistics, it refers to the theory that has been developed by Chomsky, and this theory describes how people can create and understand sentences that they never heard before. There's also another concept that is known as universal grammar, and it refers to how we have a template of how language are structured. So the influence of generative linguistics in terms of learning the second language might face complications, especially in universal grammar. I think that the learner might mix up the structures from the first language to the second language. We cannot just use the template that we have on our head, since learning a language comes with different structures and grammatical rules. So moving on to the cognitive psychology, it focuses on the mental process of an individual such as memorizing, attention, problem solving, and so on. We also have Stephen Krashen's monitor model, which includes 5 hypotheses, and those are: number 1, acquisition learning hypothesis. So it refers to if we learn the language subconsciously, it is referred as acquisition. And if we learned it, it refers to the learning. And in this hypothesis, acquisition is much more effective. Second is the monitor hypothesis. It refers to the conscious learning acts that we tend to bring with us that made us immediately correct the use of language. The third is input hypothesis. It refers to how the learners tend to acquire language by inputting. So in this hypothesis, if the learner is on their third grade, we can at least put the fourth grader lessons to them to let them be exposed on it and learn from it. The fourth one is the affective filter hypothesis. it is important to consider the mental well-being of the learner. So, we should always check on them and keep them motivated. Lastly is the natural order hypothesis. It refers to the acquiring language in a predictable order. So lastly, we have constructivism. It emphasizes the role of social interaction, individual cognitive development, and real-world experiences in acquiring language. In second language acquisition, constructivism, especially in zone of proximal development approach, learners will be able to learn language effectively by engaging with others and improve themselves in a collaborative activities. In conclusion, I think that the theory that is most applicable in today's education is the constructivism. The reason for that is it allows the students to engage with others, collaborate with them, share ideas, and also opinions. Aside from that, it also allows them to build relationships as well. I think that the best way to execute your learnings to acquire a language must be practiced through communication.